that's live now, Spartacus.
Yes, yes.
And you just need to realise that if you come around here, people will be able to actually see who you are. So I'm just giving you some bit of pre-warning. But it's really good to see you again. And I thought while you were here, I'd do two things. I'd actually just run you through where we're up to with the Recovery Box.
Yes.
And talk a little bit about the recovery camp. But also to just have this go live to our Consumer Conversations page.
Very good.
And what I want to do is actually let people know that we're actually picking up the first 25 recovery boxes from the development of Pete McGee on July the 1st from St Albans in Victoria.
Very good.
Pete has been working on finalising the launcher for the recovery box. It's an exciting time as we move the recovery box from an idea that might work to a concept that is being beta tested.
Very good.
You might not understand that concept coming from Planet K Design, but when we're beta testing something is we're sorting out all the bugs before it goes into production on a much wider basis.
Very good.
And the Kickstarter project that we ran has given us enough money to actually get 50 of these boxes. So these are the first 25, right? Some people who are watching this have already indicated that they want to be involved, and this first delivery of recovery boxes will allow that to happen. Right? Linda Hennessy and I plan to meet some of you during July. Linda is currently chairperson of Super CRO, an unincorporated association registered as a charity that is supporting the development of the recovery box.
Very good.
While people can't get their donations accepted as a charity donation yet, the Australian Commission on Not-for-Profit Charities has told us what we need to do to allow that to happen. So on our way back from Victoria, we plan to drop off 3 of the recovery boxes and spend some time talking with members of Super CRO about developing recovery box workshops to further promote the recovery box and get more people involved in the project.
Very good.
The first one of these workshops will be held at the 2020 Tiona Park Recovery Camp.
Yes.
And hopefully you can actually come and spend some time with us, Spartacus, at Tiona Park.
Might be a surprise visit. I'll look at my space diary and I will be back to you, Douglas, so we can let people know.
Yeah. Happy to give you the coordinates so that, you know, and it's really good that your vocal cords are actually working much clearer than you were 12 months ago.
I took time to study this very interesting population. I've learnt many things and feel confident now to be able to talk with people, not having to use you with my telepathic capacity.
That's fantastic, Spartacus. But just coming back, I'll just finish this off and then I can actually run you through what you've got on the screen there.
Yes.
Is what you can see when we start it up.
Very good.
Right. And I'll talk a little bit about the box and what the box looks like when I finish reading this. So the first one of these workshops are going to be held at the 2020 Tiona Park Recovery Camp.
Yes.
And that's from the 28th of September to the 7th of October this year.
Yes.
We are convinced that COVID-19 is going to be kind to us.
I believe it could be.
Yes. You know, it may change, but at this stage it's looking good. And the second one will be actually in Albury on the 18th of December this year, when we intend to hold the inaugural AGM. That's a formal process that organisations like Super CRO have got to do to inform their members
Yes.
about what's actually happening. While and as part of that AGM is we'll actually hold like a workshop that usually takes about an hour and a half to 2 hours to actually show people how these things, like they come in the box and they come together. And what we'll be able to do is demonstrate that we are making progress with moving the recovery box to open production. So what happens, people will get a box like this in the mail when they organise to be involved.
Very good. Douglas, could I, before we go,
Yep.
there was one word I don't understand.
Yep.
What is a donation and how will that benefit?
A donation, we have this thing called Australian dollars. It's a currency that we actually use.
Yes.
And there are some coins.
What's a coin?
I'd have to go out to the car if I actually wanted to show you. I've got a couple of those in the, I've got some of those in the car. And before you leave, I will show you what the coins look like.
Okay.
And we have some notes. We have a $5 note.
Yes.
And it's purple.
Yes.
We have a $10 note that's blue, right?
Very good.
And we have a website where people can actually go on and through our shop, they can now either make a donation or buy a box.
Very good.
But at the moment, the donations are not tax deductible, right?
Yes.
Now what tax deductible means is if you're working, the government takes money out of your wages called tax.
Yes.
It's a way that we actually support people in Australia on our social security system. So does that explain?
It does.
Right?
And from my view, when I go back to my ship, I see how lucky Australia really is in this COVID terrible pandemic. Please continue, Douglas.
Right. So what will happen is these boxes will come in an express post bag, and when people open them, they will have what they can see there, and they have this little box, right? And in this box, it has a number of holes in the side of it. It wouldn't float, it was actually in the water and sink, right?
Very good, yes.
But each of these little holes, there are a number of cables that can be used to go in them. Like this one here, for instance, is a what's called a HDMI cable, right? And you can see that it has a fairly big lug that it goes in. Well, what you do is you actually find the matching hole in the box, and you simply plug that in, right?
Yes.
And then this end goes into a similar hole on your monitor or TV, right?
Very good, yes.
Right? Now the magical thing is we have this stuff called electricity.
Yes.
It's not a fuel that you guys have developed in Planet Co-Design, but it's how we make all our gadgets work, right? And we have things like, this is what's called a power pack, and down on the wall you actually have plugs that you can actually like plug this into, right? So you plug these into, you can't see it from where I'm sitting, but you plug it in and some lights will come on, and then if you have all these plugged, you'll actually have this on the screen.
So Douglas, if someone was to be aware that you had this available and they were from another continent, would that box be able to go over there and be used straight away?
Yes, it could. You, depending on which of the 7 continents you go to, you may need an extra adapter.
Very good.
Like in, you'd be aware of Mr. Trump.
The Donald.
Donald, yes, the Donald. And he's in a country called United States of America. Right?
Yes.
They use a slightly different power system over there, where it's only 110 volts, right?
Yes.
In our system, it's 240 volts. The difference is, if you were to stick your finger in our plug hole, you can die, right? In America, because it's lower, you can't actually use it to die, right? Give you a nice little jump, right? And so what would end up happening is they have a plug, but if we knew, for instance, that we were selling these to America, because we buy these boxes from China, and if we had 10 going over, we'd say put the smart boxes that run on the American power base, right? Did you have any other questions before I start showing you?
No, that is very good, Douglas.
All right, well, what I need to do is just set this up. So, what's happened is I've actually disappeared off the screen and people can now just see the recovery box screen that's actually up on that TV.
Very good.
And what they're seeing at the moment is going to change.
Yes.
Because we've been working with getting as part of the launcher, which is some of the stuff in the background that people can't actually see. It's going to make it easier for people to be able to use.
Very good.
Right? And once we got the Kickstarter funding, we were able to use some of that money to employ a coder. Let's see what's happened here. To employ a coder to do some of that work. And so what I'm going to show you is where we're up to with that work.
Yes.
And you'll see there on the screen that the things are moving up the screen.
Yes.
Well, down under there we have what's called the launcher, which Peter, who's in Melbourne,
Yes.
can actually make changes as he's doing this, and we're also working with someone in South Africa. So this is like they're actually 4 hours behind us. So we've actually, like at the moment, we've got someone over there that they're just waking up. Peter and I have actually had a look at this, and we've sent her some more instructions about what needs to make this work. But what you'll see there at the moment is when I hit that button there, is there's a whole lot of different things that will come up. And like for instance with FileLink, this allows Peter down in Melbourne to go in and make some changes on my box, right?
Yes.
And so that's just showing you that we are communicating in the background with this stuff, right?
Yes.
And what you'll see here, there's a range of ads. A range of apps. And what we're looking to do is these top ones, they'll be like your favourite apps that you want to use when you switch it on. Now at the moment, because we're still testing, there's a whole lot more apps there than what necessarily needs to be there, right?
Yes.
And one of the things that I was able to do last night was create 3 new folders and move some of the apps from up there down into here, so that if I actually want to, for instance, try the ambience app. You know what the ambience app is?
I will once you've explained it, Douglas.
I will. Well, the ambience app is it's one of those things that people sometimes need to help them get off to sleep, right? And just to show you how it works, like there's a number of different sounds there, but I'm just going to use the rain sounds. Where is it? See, this is the pointer, right?
Yes.
And I didn't show you this earlier, but I might do that. Like some people like to hear thunder. Now what can happen with this is you could set this up of a night time if you actually needed some assistance to get off to sleep. And I know that's not like an issue for you. You never sleep, so that's, you know, you guys have actually worked out how not to need sleep, you know.
Yes.
So I know it's a bit of a foreign concept to you for sleeping, but we stay awake for 72 hours, we end up psychotic.
That psychotic is a word I don't understand, and if you don't, you can explain it to me later.
Right.
But people might need to check to see if that is something that's affecting them.
Yep. Well, it's a common, like with the work I did at St Vincent's, it's a common thing that people actually just think if they could stay up long enough and, you know, for enough days they can actually get enough done. What ends up happening is they go into this particular state where their body just can't cope with not actually having enough rest. And so these are, like for instance, you'll see there, you might, like for instance, like to think, I'd really like to be outside. Hear the difference?
I can.
Yeah. And the beauty of this is you can make that as, and so you could start to imagine yourself actually out camping.
Very good.
Right? If the thunder's a bit disturbing, you can come up here to light rain. You can turn the distant thunder off. So you've got and there's a whole lot of other stuff you can actually do with this.
Douglas, where we come from, or where I come from, that would be called sensory enhancement.
That's exactly, funny about that, there's a lot of things in common that we're discovering with Planet K Design that, you know, like we're just, you know, we're about 50,000 years behind you guys.
That was one of the reasons we picked this destination. I think this could be very, very handy, this particular small app there that could be very, very valuable.
Yeah. Now, what I'm going to do is, I'm not going to show you any more apps, but you can see, like if you didn't have access to a computer, you can see how this could be quite useful. Now what I'm going to do is, I know that you've been starting to listen to some of our music.
Yes.
Can you see how at the moment the rain is still in the background working?
Yes.
Right? If I said to you, what, with your new love of earth music, is there any particular track you'd like to listen to right now, so I can just demonstrate how useful this box might be to you if we could work out a way to power it back on the ship?
This may not be everybody's choice. One song I have heard that I would listen to again is called If Tomorrow Never Comes.
If tomorrow. Who's the artist?
From the land of the Donald.
Right.
His name is Garth, who is a very nice name, Brooks.
Hang on. You've got to be careful with your fingers. It can tend to what attracted you to Garth Brooks?
I believe his voice, the words in this particular song,
Yeah.
and I find this...
Hi, we had to stop the recording for reasons that if we were to play some of the music from the downloads with YouTube, that we wouldn't be able to actually upload it to YouTube, which is a funny arrangement considering that the music's actually coming off YouTube. Where Spartacus and I got up to, Spartacus was actually talking about having a watch party, so that people each Sunday morning could actually put forward some music that they liked using the YouTube clips. So what I'll be doing is I'll be taking out the music and I will be recording what I'm doing now and putting that up, and also just putting in a couple